The first time I dropped these on my head, I wasn't expecting them to sound better than a pair of headphones I paid twice as much for. The plastic shell has this matte texture that doesn't catch fingerprints, but it also doesn't feel slippery. There's enough grain to it that it never slides around in your hand. When you fold them, the hinges have this controlled resistance, not loose or creaky, just firm enough that you know they're not going to snap. The ear cups rotate flat with a satisfying mechanical click that makes them feel like they were built to be tossed into a bag without babying them. The headband curves gently without too much clamping force, and the padding underneath is wrapped in the soft touch material that feels smooth when you first put them on. But there's a slight rubberized quality to it, and if you adjust them a few times in a row, you'll notice it tucks on your hair just a little. Not painful, just noticeable. The ear cups themselves are wrapped in protein leather with memory foam, and they compress evenly when you press into them with your thumb, like they're designed to mold around your ears without creating pressure points. At 275 grams, they're not ultra light, but they don't feel heavy on your head either. You get this sense of density without bulk, like the frame is reinforced but not overbuilt. The weight distribution is balanced enough that after an hour, you're not adjusting them constantly. The first time I put on Leonard Cohen and turned up the volume, I immediately noticed how deep the bass goes. It's full and controlled, not boomy or muddy, just present in a way that makes every track feel heavier than it should. The low end on these headphones digs deeper than the Bose Quiet Comfort 35 too, which surprised me because I wasn't expecting at $150 pair to outperform something that was considered top tier a few years ago. But the highs don't quite match the energy. Cymbals and hi-hats sound crisp enough, but they don't sparkle the way they do on something like the Sony XH1 XM6. Even when I played around with the 8-band EQ in the app, I could never quite dial in the clarity I want in the treble range. It's not dull, just slightly recessed, like the sound profile is tilted towards the low end. The noise cancellation adapts 38,400 times per second according to Baseus, and while it does a solid job of blocking out consistent noise like airplane engines or the hum of an HVAC system, it doesn't cut as deeply as the Sony WH-1000 XM6. You'll still hear keyboard clicks in an office or the chatter of people nearby if it's loud enough. Transparency mode exists, but it sounds unnatural and introduces a hiss that makes it uncomfortable to use for more than a few seconds. One thing that kept catching me off guard is how warm the ear cups get after about an hour. Not unbearable, but noticeable enough that I'd take them off every so often to let my ears cool down. When you scroll through the product page, you can see how much they emphasize the sound by Bose, tuning, and the 100-hour battery life. Those are the hero features, the ones they want you to lock onto. And honestly, the battery life does live up to the hype, because I went an entire week without charging them once, but what they don't really talk about is the EQ flexibility in the app, which is actually one of the most useful features. 8 bands is more than what Bose offers in their own headphones, and that level of control makes a bigger difference in day-to-day listening than the sound by Bose branding ever could. They also lean hard into the adaptive ANC and the minus 48 decibel noise reduction depth, which sounds impressive on paper. In reality, it's good, but not industry-leading. The transparency mode is barely mentioned, and after using it for a few minutes, I understand why. These became my go-to headphones for anything longer than 20 minutes. I'd reach for them when I was editing videos, when I was on a call that I knew would stretch past an hour, or when I just needed to block out the noise of the apartment next door. The combination of battery life and sound quality made them reliable in a way that doesn't require thinking. What I didn't expect to appreciate was how fast they charge. A 10-minute plug-in gave me 12 hours of playtime, which meant I could top them up while making coffee and walk out the door without worrying about them dying mid-commute. That's the kind of convenience that changes how you use the product. You stop planning around the battery and just use them. The bass presence made a bigger difference than I thought it would. I'm not someone who chases bass-heavy tuning, but hearing the low-end detail in tracks I've listened to 100 times before made them feel new again. It's the kind of thing you stop thinking about while using them in a good way. You don't really notice how much they change your setup until you go back to something else. The headband tugs on your hair if you adjust them too many times in a row. It's not a deal breaker, but something I kept noticing. The ear cups get warm about after an hour, which isn't unusual for over-ear headphones, but it's still there. And transparency mode sounds unnatural enough that I stopped using it entirely after the first day. It introduces hiss and doesn't reproduce high frequencies well, so it's easier to just take them off when you need to hear something. If you're the kind of person who prioritizes deep, full bass and multi-day battery life over the sharpest treble response, these are absolutely worth it. But if your day is mostly Zoom calls and you rely heavily on transparency mode, the difference may not be worth the price. What surprised me most was how much better these sounded than headphones that cost twice as much.